My name is Jen Rainey, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator for the Delaware Department of Services for Children, Youth, and their Families. And I'm really excited today to have a discussion around a really important topic that we all are faced with, mental health. May is Mental Health Month, and we thought it was a really good idea to really focus on topics around mental health that we all could, use in terms of strategies and resources, and really just get some awareness out there for folks. We know a lot of folks are going through things during this time. So the first discussion we're having today is around a really important topic. It is around mental health strategies and resources for youth experiencing foster care and our foster families. And I'm really excited to have two experts in this field. Meg Garey is the Executive Director of A Better Chance for Our Children, an organization that works with foster care and adoption and post-adoption services. And we also have Jessica Sinarski, who is the author of Riley the Brave, founder of BraveBrains, and also the clinical supervisor for A Better Chance for Our Children. So just to kind of kick things off, I was hoping we all could kind of talk about what the impact COVID-19 may have on our children and our families.
Yeah, so I want to make sure that we talk about obviously all the things that everyone is experiencing, but especially for our youth in foster care and our foster families, there are some different kinds of logistics that they have to deal with that maybe other families don't, and some different impacts around some processes and such in their lives. And so, if you think about our children who are in foster care, up until now, they've had maybe time with their birth families, they've had that family time visitation, or maybe they've been visiting with a pre-adoptive family, if that's the way they're going. And all those things have slowed down or have switched to being online, and which is just a much different way to engage. And we know that not all of our birth family members are going to have the resources and the technology to do all of that. So there's been some big changes there. And, in terms of our children in foster care, and our goal is reunification with birth family members, a lot of those things have slowed down because they've been impacted by family members' ability to sort of get into the housing they were set for, or to have that job that they were set for. And so that has really slowed down for them. And that's really hard. I mean, our kids live with a lot of uncertainty, and we're all living with a lot of that now. And so it's just been heightened by that. And so if you think about the other pieces too of the additional logistics that maybe a foster family has to manage, that includes visits from workers virtually, attending court virtually, other appointments and things that their kids may be having that maybe not every family has to manage, but our foster families have to manage. So there are just these pieces that have really slowed down because of what's going on. So.
Absolutely. There are so many challenges that people are facing, and the new normal, as we all say, that we're all trying to grapple with. Can you kind of talk about, how some of these challenges and experiences can, impact children and families, and how the crisis might be moving forward, and just really how it might impact them in their daily lives?
So I would just broaden that a little bit to think about for all of us, not just kids who are experiencing foster care, but for all of us, everyone's having a little bit different experience. So for some, maybe they still are feeling some financial security, and so it's inconvenient, or maybe there's things that they love about having time at home and alone time, and those kinds of things. I think for some, kind of like Meg was alluding to, like things were already on the edge a bit, right? So maybe it's a kid who had a lot of support, a weekend camp program and after school things that really helped meet the needs, and now suddenly that's been taken away. And then there are families and kids who were already just really struggling. Things were already really hard, maybe dealing with homelessness or other challenges that this has just made harder. Food was already scarce, and now I'm one of 1,000 who are trying to get these resources instead of I'm just trying to get back on my feet. So I think it really has impacted all of us differently. There are certainly some common common ground kinds of things. But as is always the case, these challenges come with, they come with a cost. And so some of that is, we were just discussing this on a call this morning, that you might see some little, some super skills, you know, some of those strengths shine through where, you know, some of our kids who've experienced way worse than being trapped inside and not being able to go to school, you know, that suddenly there are things blossoming in them because they are having some time at home with a safe caregiver, and that's going better. And then there are others who their brains from early on are wired for defense, you know, meaning that they developed the skills, they developed those superpowers in the back of their brain to be able to handle really rough situations. And so now this sort of global sense of uncertainty and fear and anxiety is triggering those early those early memories that are saying like panic, 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 and maybe they're seeing their adults, like their social worker or their therapist or their foster parent or their biological parent, and seeing the stress in their faces, and that can be kind of destabilizing. You know, I know even I have 3 boys, and I have had to help them stay regulated. And when I have lost it a little bit, when I've lost that connection to my calm upstairs brain, then I've needed to say like, hey, I'm sorry, Mom is a little more stressed than usual. Like things are a little bit more chaotic, and opening up that dialogue is just so helpful in normalizing what our kids are experiencing. So somebody who's had a lot more experience with scary caregivers or parents who haven't always been safe, they might need a lot more of the verbal reassurance and I should say very clearly nonverbal reassurance that they're safe, because their brains are going to see stress, they're going to see like a furrowed brow and interpret it as I did something bad, or I'm getting kicked out, or you don't care about me anymore, or I don't know if there's going to be a roof over our head tomorrow. And that's very different than, gee, I don't get to see my friends on the playground, which is another thing they're experiencing, right? So it's just, there are always layers to it, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think that's so important, and kind of understanding, sometimes we might not even be realizing we're doing certain things, but all those nonverbal clues really can have an impact and mean something to our kids. I guess in that similar vein, what are some of your guys' strategies for, helping kind of cope with maybe figuring out those signs, learning different, ways to really take care of yourself and prioritize your mental health, as a kid? Is there anything, simple that, they could do?
I think for our kids, there's a lot that they can do, and a lot of, sort of simple things that the adults around them can help them do. But one of the things I think we all need to sort of start with is the fact that there's a lot right now to grieve. There's a lot that we've lost. And, as Jess was just saying, the friend they don't get to see on the playground, that these are important things. And because we can't grieve what we don't acknowledge, we want to really just acknowledge those pieces. So maybe for our kids, it's about kind of making that list. Like, what do I miss? What am I sad about? What am I mad about? What am I not going to have, or what don't I have? Because they're not little things. I know they felt little when it was every day I was in the cafeteria for lunch and I got to sit next to my best friend who I don't see other times, or whatever it may be. Whoever you saw, whatever was important to you, whatever you had access to, it's gone now. And again, they're not small things, they're important things. And so recognizing that it's okay to have lots of feelings about those things, and maybe also be okay being home, right? We can have both, we can hold them both. So I think starting there is important, and just naming those feelings. And then I think, again, some of the things that can be really important is, I know kids hear this from parents and adults all the time about like just taking a walk. It is really important for our brains and our bodies. Like, we need those resets sometimes. So take a walk. make it fun if you need to make it fun to have a good time out there, but take a walk and find ways that you can connect with your friends. I know it's different now, but there are a lot of ways to do it. There are online games that adults can help you get set up. There are ways to do it with that technology. So make sure you're connecting, because we need others. So who are your safe people, your safe friends? Who do you need to see? Make sure you're doing it. And I think those are, I'll sort of leave it with those basics, and Jess can add if she has others, but I think those are good places to start.
Definitely. I think it's all about nurturing the connections, especially today when we're living in just such an increasingly virtual world and landscape. Kind of going off of that a little bit, what are some ways that our caregivers can, take care of themselves as well and prioritize their own mental health, as they're going through things?
I think there's an element of getting back to basics, that there are lots of things that we sort of have done on autopilot. Like you got up and you went to work every day. You got the kids to the school bus and you went to work. That looks different now, and so you might, I personally had to get very concrete with what is different now, and how do I want to structure my day. And I think self-care looks different now, and maybe has to be more intentional. So both celebrating the skills that you already have, because you've done hard things before, and every parent out there has done really hard things before. So you have some of those superpowers, but also recognizing that you might need to sleep more. I think I got more sleep in the first couple weeks of this crisis because my body just needed it. I needed the reset to have the power to get through and figure out what the next step was. So, do that when you can. Our bodies are gonna, when we're in stress mode, our bodies are gonna crave the things that feel like a quick fix, and that's okay, right? There are going to be times when you want to just veg out and not feel your feelings, but we also have to feel our feelings sometimes. And so, if organizing is really helpful for you, or if vegging out and watching TV is helpful for you for a calming down, that's great. Do those things, and spend some time with a journal. Talk it out with a safe friend. There are a lot of feelings going on right now. There are a lot of losses, like Meg was saying. And so if we don't face those, they'll stay there. They'll stay there in your shoulder tension or in your quick temper with your kids. And that's not you being a jerk. It's a brain thing, right? Our brains respond to these two stressors, and especially a chronic stress situation with a whole flood of hormones and chemicals. And so it really takes more concerted effort to stay regulated right now as a caregiver. And that's normal, and it's okay. And it doesn't mean anything bad about you. We just have to choose to do that.
Well, and I'll just add something that I read and came across at some point in these last 2 months, which was to remember that we're not working from home. Our kids aren't just doing school from home. We're at home during a crisis, right? These are different things. And so it's okay, as Jess was saying, it's okay to sort of make those shifts and to not be okay, right? That, yes, there are some good things that are maybe happening as a result, as happens sometimes in a crisis, but that it's not, again, it's not a small thing that we're doing. We are managing hard things, even though it may on the surface look easy, right? Well, you're just home. You're just doing, you're just setting up a couple extra, things for your kid each day so they can talk to their teacher or whatever. No, these are really big shifts. And so I really liked seeing that idea that, we're not just at home, we're at home during a crisis. So let's be thoughtful about how that impacts us and take some steps to help ourselves out.
Which I think also speaks, Meg, to the idea that we not only accepting the big feelings our kids are having, but accepting the big feelings that we are having as caregivers and adults in this situation. That it's not a break where you get to work from home, or if you're lucky enough to have a job where that's an option. But that it is, things hurt right now and things are hard, and and accepting that in each other. We can be grateful and things can be hard at the same time. And I find when gratitude comes from a place of reality, and even sometimes from a place of grief, so grieving the big losses, grieving the little losses, and letting gratitude arise from that, that tends to be more lasting and genuine than gritting it out and, you know, forcing like, you should be thankful, there are some people that blah, blah, blah. Like, when has that ever helped anyone?
No, that is so true. I think it's so important, and a lot of what people, talk about, and working in this space, resilience is such a key factor. And I love what you both talked about having that superhero quality that you may not have known about yourself that you realize. Can you talk about how you can embrace parts of yourself, build that resilience, nurture it, and empower both kids and caregivers to really, maybe almost find themselves during this time?
So it's interesting that you say that, because I had a couple of calls before this one today, all with providers who are doing sort of direct service kinds of things in this time. And it's something that we talked about on both of the calls at length, because this is a time, perhaps, like any time you go through something difficult, it is just essential that if we can take 3 minutes and reflect on, wow, I did that well. One of my mentors was talking about he wants us to give grit points, that you get, that you like give yourself the reward, in a brain sense. You're giving yourself a little dopamine hit by saying, I did that hard thing, I got on that call even though I didn't want to, or I made dinner for the 47th time in a row and I'm so tired of it, but I did it. That now is a time when we can really acknowledge the mundane hard things, as well as, if you can take 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes and notice, gosh, when I had a tech issue before, it used to undo me, but now it's just par for the course, and I do this and I do that, and I got better at that. Because we can get better at things. That's a pretty cool thing. So maybe I was a super planner before and I have learned more to be more go with the flow, or I needed everything organized and I'm learning to accept some chaos, or things were super chaotic and I've learned to be more organized. Like, things have shifted likely for every single person watching this in the last 2 months. This looks very different. Your life right now looks very different than it looked 2 months ago. And so that reflection, not just like complaining and wallowing, but that reflection to say, this was hard and I did it, and I fell down here, and that's okay because I also got back up, and man, that's a grit point. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think that well, I know from the literature and neuroscience, you're building pathways to the parts of your brain that you absolutely want to be stronger right now. So that's a really powerful practice.
Yeah, and I would just add, embracing the pieces of resilience that maybe don't look like resilience on the face of it. I think, this is something that comes up a lot in our work, and especially a lot of what Jess does. It is looking at behaviors and reframing things that, again, on the face don't look like they are resilience. They don't look like they are adaptive. They don't look like they're serving the kid well, but they are. And so looking at what is happening right now, in terms of the things, the way we are all coping, and recognizing that some of it is a different kind of resilience. So.
It's so true. I think that's so important, and just keeping all of that in mind, and really building, that community around all of us, which I think we're all just kind of seeking and searching for at this point too. So I guess I was curious, just to hear from you both, if there's anything, that would be helpful for kids to know in terms of if they're feeling out of balance. I know, Jess, you mentioned, you might start feeling tense in certain areas of your body. Are there little kind of signs where, we can all just say, hey, let me just take a beat and kind of see what I need to readjust and kind of move forward.
Absolutely. Again, I think that, so I feel a little silly when I say it, but your breath really is one of the most powerful tools you have for both for noticing what's going on, as well as for giving yourself a moment to check in. And so something that can happen when we're in crisis mode, and for kids who've been in crisis mode maybe their whole life, that might feel really scary. Taking one breath might feel really overwhelming to your nervous system, to your brain and body, as you're trying to, because you're used to being ready. You're used to being all ready for whatever comes. And so being still can feel a little bit scary. I think I would encourage you to try it out. And parents and caregivers and supporters, I guess I would say, if it's hard for kiddos that you're working with, or if it's hard for yourself or your partner, that's okay, right? We can stair step into this and take it as it comes. I think as you get to know yourself a little bit better, you can both celebrate the strength of your coping strategies. Like, I know for myself, I can get things done. I can power through. I can go into like do it mode. I also know at this point that it takes its toll on my body, and so I have to balance that where it's almost like a conscious choice of like, okay, right now I'm going to do this, but I know I'm going to crash later. So I'm going to make that choice, or I'm going to notice that the tension in my shoulders. And so there have been multiple times throughout these last 8 weeks or so that I keep finding my shoulders like this all day long and have to be like, okay, just settle on down. And then 2 minutes later, all right. And so I have found myself, so there's an app called Smiling Mind, and they have activities for all ages. Like they really do a lovely job. And I found myself using it more than I used to, even though, I knew it was helpful, but I need it now. I literally need it. And so I guess I would just encourage for kids and adults who are not used to being able to be still in their bodies, that feels awkward or scary. That's normal, it's okay. And so finding playful ways, like going out and blowing bubbles together, because that lets you have a nice long breath out, or having an impromptu dance party and then slowing down your dancing to let your body feel that like speeding up and slowing down. Playing little games, one of the things I have in the Parents Corner at rileythebrave.org is the healing power of play, because it just has a whole bunch of different little games, because play is such a powerful way to calm our nervous system down, and we as adults need it. So I find Zoom calls with my friends right now exhausting and sad, but I played cards on an app with some friends of mine, and that was delightful. Like, I really enjoyed that. So even as adults, we're shifting right now. We're finding ways to play. We're finding ways to get that calm back in our brains and bodies. And so we might have to work a little extra at it as we're helping our kids with it.
Absolutely. And one of the other resources that I've seen some good material on is Sesame Street in communities. They have a lot of fantastic stuff all the time, and they have some very specific things right now. And I happened to be looking at it and saw there was a sort of bedtime meditation type thing for kids. And basically we have a hard time slowing our bodies down at the end of the day, especially if we're sort of stressed and we've been kind of up. And so it's just, sort of walking through your body and giving everything a wiggle and then saying goodnight to it, right? So we wiggle our feet and then we say goodnight to them, and then wiggle our legs and we say goodnight to them. And it's just a way, again, of sort of connecting to what's going on in our bodies, because I think, as Jess was saying, I have I clench, right? So when I realize that I've been clenching a lot, I have to be very conscious about sort of letting go. And I think that there are a lot of kid-friendly ways to do that. And I will say again that a lot of that also is on with Jess's materials, that I know a lot of parents have found the breathing activities and those pieces easy ways to sort of teach their kids what some of those things can look like. So we use it a lot.
No, that's awesome. I felt myself lowering down as you were talking. It's funny when you just take notice of when you take that, 30 seconds just to kind of realize what your body's doing. It's pretty amazing. I guess as kind of a wrap up, what are some resources that you both would recommend for families during this time, whether it's a website or an app, anything they could turn to, to kind of help them?
Sure. So some that have already been mentioned, so at the RileyTheBrave.org, there are a host of resources there for parents. Partly because we've been talking about putting words to feelings and those kinds of things, but for some kids and adults, that's really hard, being able to say I'm mad. And I was talking with a kiddo last week, and it's like, oh, were you feeling really mad before you did this horrible thing? And he couldn't say he was feeling mad, but he could say he was feeling like a tiger. And so that's what the Riley the Brave book introduces, is these things that kept kids alive are the same things they get in trouble for later. But if we can put some words to it and hold it in context in a story, then it might make that a little easier to make sense of for kids who've gone through a lot. And so, yeah, so there are some resources there. There are also some resources for professionals at BraveBrains.com to again keep this focus on we're all in this together. We're also, it's a brain thing. And so if we shift what our expectation is, if we can reframe what's happening, that the kid who's stealing more than they used to, that's kind of resource gathering in a time of stress. And it's not great. I'm not excusing stealing. I'm not saying go out and steal things, but it's a squirrel moment. You're trying to squirrel away all your resources, and that feels safe and protective. And let's be honest, we've seen a lot of adults having squirrel moments too, and fights over toilet paper in the shopping centers. So having some language and resources around that can be helpful. I also find, so Smiling Mind is an app, I believe, so on the other books that can be helpful, Gabby Garcia, G-A-B-I, Garcia, she has a number of books that are really great resources for tuning into your body. You were talking about like, how do you do that? Listening to My Body is one of her books, and she has those in English and Spanish as well. And she has a bunch of activities on her website as well, and I've seen those be really useful. I'm sure there's more. Meg, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, there was one I came across just the other day. It's blissfulkids.com, I believe, and it is about meditation and how to explain it to kids and explaining the parts of their brain and why meditation is helpful. So talking about the amygdala, our jumpy superhero, and our cortex, Tex, the sheriff who keeps us going, and our hippocampus, which is our librarian. It sort of holds our information, our memories. So it's a great way to help kids sort of understand the parts of their brain, and then talk about, again, some of that meditation, like how we do connect to ourselves. So Blissful Kids.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for joining me for this discussion, for sharing all of those amazing facts and strategies and resources. We really appreciate it. And to everyone who's tuning in, thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.